Season 5 has been delayed, but that has given me more time to actually focus on how am I going to make my gold or coin in Season 5. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you how I'm going to be going about making my gold in Season 5, at least at the start, and we'll see how it is throughout the season. With Season 5 comes a lot of changes, and with that, we have new artifacts, we have cooking changes, stuff like that, in order to potentially look at how we can make our gold. So, to start it off, obviously with new artifacts especially, there comes new builds, and with new builds means rune glass is going to be used fairly often with those new builds. So, what I will recommend, like I do with every single season, is rune glass. Rune glass is a great way to make your gold, whether it's farming the glyphs, which I will put a link to a video in the description down below that actually shows all the different glyphs, where you can get them, and kind of the value of them based on where it was at that time. Now, glyph prices will shift around depending on the season, depending on the server and all of that, but I will put that video down below so you can at least see where you can go and get it. So that is one way that you can definitely make some gold with the rune glass, the glyphs, globs, any of the resources that go into that, or even just crafting the rune glass yourself. But I do highly recommend farming glyphs. They're pretty easy, and globs as well. Pretty easy and straightforward for farming. The next way that I actually will suggest is through the different matrices. So whether it's a weapon, jewelry, or armor matrix, making those matrices can be quite profitable if you have high enough trade skills in order to craft those. Now, I know a lot of people do still craft an armor matrix, and you can get some doubles on those through the arcane station. So some of that is definitely worth it to try to make some gold. And again, with more artifacts comes the use of matrices. So people are going to be using those matrices in order to try to level up their artifacts, in order to craft other gear and stuff like that. So rune glass and matrix, definitely two options for those new builds that are coming. Now for the main way that I will be making my gold, more than likely, depending on how I'm feeling for farming, but that is through food. So a lot of the ingredients that are going to be going into the different foods, not necessarily new foods, but just some of the changes that they've made. So some of you know that they have all the different banana foods, and currently in Season 4, they are actually going to be giving you 48 attribute points, but next season they are dropping it down to 44 and increasing the old 40 con or 40 attribute foods up to the 48 mark. So any of the legendary fish foods or consumables, as well as the sumptuous rabbit. So that leads us into which ingredients are most worthwhile in order to make your gold. So the first one I'm going to be pointing out is one of my favorites, and many of you might even know it, and that is sugar. Now, I have a sugar run video, which I will also post down below. We have quite a few videos that are going to be posted down below that you can go and check out. But I have a sugar run video in Ebon scale that I really like running, and I have heard of a lot of people making quite a bit of gold from it, depending on what your server prices are. But with the foods, sugar is used in every single one of the banana recipes, and so you have that opportunity to potentially make decent gold depending on where you're at on your server. The next one is mint, and with mint, we're actually going to wrap it into nutmeg as well, being the two herbs that I would highly suggest going out and farming. I do have a mint farming video that goes to a couple different locations in Restless as well as Windsward, and what I'm going to recommend for you is if you want to farm mint and nutmeg at the same time and make the most out of your harvesting, is go to Windsward. Windsward actually has a chance of dropping both mint and nutmeg from any of the herb plants and stuff like that, so you can actually kind of accumulate both of them pretty quickly if you go to Windsor and start farming. So mint and nutmeg should be decently high priced because they are used in some of those better recipes. The next two that I'm going to go over, same thing as the mint and nutmeg, are the lemons and coconuts. So lemons and coconuts are both used for different foods. The lemons, I believe, are used for the dexterity food, and the coconut is actually going to be shifted to be used for the banana parfaits for the con food. So what I will recommend is going to Weaver's Fen, and I do plan on creating a video for a Weaver's Fen loot run video, so definitely subscribe to the channel so you know when that video goes up, because that will be an important one. And once I do have that video done, I'll try to remember to throw it in the description below, but definitely subscribe so then you know when that video goes up, because that is going to be a really good one. You'll be able to farm lemons, coconuts, as well as some other pretty decent craft mods and stuff out of Weaver's Fen. So lemons, coconuts, definitely next on the list. All right, so the next one that we'll be talking about is the Sumptuous Rabbit. And Sumptuous Rabbit, because the old 40 con food is now going to be 48 con, Sumptuous Rabbit should be going back up in price as people are going to be farming it because it is the top tier con food now. So Sumptuous Rabbit, I actually have another video, which is actually more of an armadillo farming video. You can actually use that same location for going and farming up your Sumptuous Rabbit as well, because you can farm up the prime armadillo meat, sell that. You can farm up the Sumptuous Rabbit meat, either use that or sell that. So it's kind of a 2-in-1. Now that area can be a little bit busy for farming depending on where you're at and what people are farming. If they're only going for armadillos, then the rabbits are a little bit easier for you to gather yourself. But I like to go there. It's right over by Wall, and I will post that video as well in the description down below. The next item, or the next herb that I'm going to be talking about, is cinnamon. Cinnamon is one that kind of goes up and down in price. It is used in some recipes, but it's also used for incense, which incense aren't as popular as far as like people crafting them, buy them, stuff like that. But cinnamon can be a really good one, and that's going to be available in Eden Grove, Elysian Wilds, or Cutlass Keys. I don't really have a good loot run or run video for that, for cinnamon specifically. I used to farm it in Old First Light before, but obviously being that it's Elysian Wilds now, I can't really farm it as easily, because First Light was fantastic for cinnamon farming, and unfortunately we just don't have access to those herbs like we used to. But definitely cinnamon is pretty high on the list of things that I would highly recommend going out and farming for yourself. The last thing, and this is kind of a big one, depending on how you like to enjoy your PvE time in the game, but that is legendary fish. Now, there are some big changes coming to the fishing side of it, because the fishing hotspots are seeing a change. And what they're doing is they're increasing the time that the hotspot will stay up, so you can actually catch more and more fish. So the number of fish that you can catch per hotspot is getting increased, not necessarily the time itself, but the amount of fish you can catch is increased. And then they actually decreased, or they will be decreasing, the time it takes for those hotspots to come back. A lot of people do not like fishing in New World. There are quite a few that do, but most, I would say, typically don't worry about getting their fishing skill up. They don't really like it. I'm not a huge fan myself, but with the fact that the legendary fish are going to be that much more valuable because they will be the new 48 attribute foods outside of Con, they will definitely be worthwhile for some players. And even if you don't end up selling the fish, you could turn those fish into consumables and then sell those 48 attribute consumables for a higher price. So it really comes down to check your server. I gave you the list of ingredients that I would highly recommend looking into. Check your server now. You might want to invest in some of it, but honestly, it's tough to say for sure right now which direction some of the players will go. Some of the changes to the hotspots may adjust, the prices and change some of that. The other thing we also need to think about is the fact that players in general will have slightly more coin and gold because of the fact that respecs are cheaper. Now, respec going from 200 down to 50 may not seem like a huge deal, but honestly, they have said that that is the biggest gold sink in the game, and so that's how they get a lot of that gold and coin out of rotation, out of the system. And so being that, like for myself, I might respec 4 or 5 times in a day. So like, let's say it's 5 times in a day, that's 1,000 gold. Once it drops to 50, that's only 250 gold. So that leaves me a 750 more than I used to have. So it is something that players in general, especially the players who respec quite often and play a lot of different builds, they will start having just more gold by the end of the day, just being that we're saving that much more. So it is a pretty big savings, meaning that people should have more gold. There is a chance that we might see some inflation or something like that. I don't really know exactly what to expect for that, but definitely keep an eye on your own server, your own economy within your server, and see what happens, because what I've found since I've started my EU alt character and having my main on US East is I see two very different markets. What's very expensive on one might not be expensive on the other, and vice versa. So it really just depends, but keeping a watch on your individual market and your server is very important to figure out which of these specific items or other items outside of what I've listed is going to be worth it to sell in Season 5. With a lot of the changes coming to Season 5, especially on the cooking side of things, getting your gold and coin is going to be slightly different in some ways depending on what you want to do in the game. But definitely what I would suggest to most people is try to figure out which way you can make your money and also still have fun in the game, because there's a lot of different ways you can go about it. Obviously, some will give you more money than others, but in the end, it's all about having fun because it is a video game. Go out there, have fun, make your gold, and figure out which is the best method for you. But that is going to do it for today's video. So until next time, I'll see you guys later.